Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Nation80 podcast. This is episode 23. I'm your host, Rod, and I'm here with our co host, Mike. Mike, what's going on?
What's going on, Rodney? Yeah, ready for episode 23. If my voice sounds a little weird, it's because the whole family is sick in the household right now. The baby got I think, what is it called? RSV.
Mm.
Uh, and then the boy got probably the flu or something from school. And we just caught it ourselves. So it's been a long weekend, but I'm ready to get this episode started. A lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, actually, this has been a really jam packed week with news, especially TV and movie news. But before we do all that, Mike, let's do like we always do. What have you been playing, reading, or watching this week?
All right. Yeah. So I guess as far as playing, so that's coming up as part of our project. But Steam had recently had a sale, and I want to say it's still going on until this week, the end of this week, and that's their Halloween discounted sale. And so we picked a couple of games that we were going to play. Um, but one of the games that I picked that I won't talk about in our project segment. Uh, it was just a just a really fun game, and that was, Death Road to Canada,
Mm.
and, I think I mentioned this before, but it's like, man, it's kinda like for the old heads out there, I guess, 'cause I don't even know if they still play this game in schools, but it's kinda like Oregon Trail, right? And, instead of that, you're just, a couple of guys or girls or whoever, because you could create your own players, and you're traveling across, the country to get to Canada, and, while you're doing it, you're basically in the Walking Dead type of scenario, okay? Where you've got to avoid zombies, fight zombies, you got to do looting, raiding, that type of stuff. And along the way, they give you those kind of choices that you would see in Oregon Trail. Do you help this person or do you trade with this person? And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And what's really what the real hook for this game is that A, you get to create your own player, but B, it's a one shot, one kill type deal. Like if you die, then you're dead. Your character
Mhm.
is dead. And while you have made other characters in your party that you could take care of or take over, once your character is gone, they are gone for the rest of the run or the rest of the game. And you can't bring that character back unless you start a brand new game. And so it really gives you that urgency to not just go out there and strike down zombies. Uh, One of the faults that we ran into is because of Halloween. They threw in some Halloween specials, so they gave you like the Army of the Dead chainsaw that you hooked up to your arm. And Elias was going to town. He's like, "Yes, He's just mowing down people left and right, but then he ran out of gas, and then he got overrun, and I was
So it's
nowhere to.
funny you mentioned that, Mike. So I downloaded the game earlier this week and I played it myself. And my partner had the chainsaw, and same thing. He was following me, mowing down everybody. Now I didn't run out of gas because I was picking up gas as we went, but I just thought that was pretty unique. It's kind of funny too.
Now, did you play that with somebody, or were you doing just the AI partner?
I just had an AI partner, and he was pretty legit. He held me down.
Yeah, I it's so this is a game maybe with we get on with Brandon or even Brandon and Elias and do a run because it's fun. It's not it's a regular, top down 16-bit game, but it's very the hook is there. The
Hmm.
actual hook and uh the urgency to make the right decisions and to not just go for every zombie. There are a couple of times where we tried to run back to the car. There were zombies surrounding the car, and even if we got into the car, we couldn't get it started up immediately, and they just broke down the car, and we had to get out, and then it was just a disaster from there. So, uh, it's a fun game. There's something that Elias and I've been playing a lot this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I intend to play some more too. I just haven't had. Well, I can't say I didn't have time. I had time. It's just that I played so much this week. So what I played this week was I played same thing, that Halloween sale. I won't talk about what I played for my project yet either, but I played Resident Evil 7, and game is extremely scary, which is great. So I've had a blast with that. I did play a couple hours of Uncharted 4, which it's Uncharted, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's always good fun with that game. But the game that really got me this week was the mobile game Marvel Snap, right? And so I kind of told Michael and my brother about it this week, but I couldn't put that game down. It's perfect for like when you got like a 10-15 minute break at work or whatever. Usually I read, which I need to keep on doing, but this game just kind of took over, right? So let me just give you the concept of the game real quick. Each player has a deck of 12 cards. Each card depicts a Marvel character with cost, power level, and potentially a special ability. At the start of each round, players simultaneously put a card face down on one of the three locations. At the end of each round, the cards are revealed and special abilities of cards trigger. Whoever has the highest number of power at a given location wins that location. Goal of the game is to win 2 out of 3 locations. The game usually lasts 6 rounds, and then players climb the game's rank ladder by earning cubes. A game begins with a single cube as its stakes, but a player may double their stakes anytime by snapping. At which point their opponent has the option of retreating or acceding to the snap. Um, and that's just kind of a lowdown of the game. But yeah, for what I've played of it so far, it's really fun. And the reason, even though there is microtransactions, it doesn't make you have to purchase anything to enjoy the game, right? So really enjoyed this game without purchasing anything whatsoever. If I did, it would just be for cosmetics more than it would be like to get this special card, pay $10 here, to do this, pay $4 here, which I wasn't going to do. I don't like those type of games. So yeah, this has been a really fun experience playing this game, and I know I'll be playing it today sometime today.
Now, this was a mobile game?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. You can put it on your iPhone. I'm sure you can put it on your iPad as well. But yeah, like I said, it when I read it online, that's because I heard people talking about it. And a matter of fact, it's the number one mobile game this week. I think it's done really well. It's got like blockbuster numbers so far, but it's really fun. Only thing I really wish is that they had a mode that, like, if I wanted to go against, for example, you, that I could just play you,
Mm,
some sort of way, right? Um, there's a theory that's a lot of bots on there, which I don't mind because I don't necessarily think a game when it first starts off is going to have a whole bunch of users,
right.
but word of mouth and stuff like that that'll eventually change. So I'm totally cool with that, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
that sounds pretty good. I feel like there's a resurgence in those kind of card-based games. And that's definitely
Hmm.
something I would like to check out.
Yeah, and to be fair with you, I'm curious to see if something like that they would eventually bring to a physical version, because it seems like a game that could easily translate into a physical version of it.
Right.
But the effects that is added to the game when you play mobile is also what makes it kind of fun. Because, for example, if I drop down an Iron Man card, the card acts emulates Iron Man when it lands onto the 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 game or whatever, right? So, or like when Hulk lands down, when you drop the Hulk card, of course it says Hulk smash. Everything kind of like flies up in the air and drops back down. The Ironheart card, all of them do all these little special things, which make it kind of cool, right? And I haven't even gotten to like the classics as far as I haven't seen Spider-Man yet, Miles Morales, anything like that. But yeah, it's been a blast. I definitely would encourage you to try it out.
Okay. All right.
All right, so let's get to some of this news. Like I said, it's been an action-packed week. So let's go ahead and start off this way because, there's even though there's some other big news to talk about, why not let's get the one thing that everybody has been clamoring about this week, and that is the new Ant-Man trailer, right? Which is the new one is called Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Mania, I believe, right? And so we were given a new trailer, I think what, Tuesday this week, maybe
Yeah.
Wednesday. And in the trailer, we have the usual suspects from the other movies, but now I believe the daughter has a bigger role to play in this movie.
Yep.
Uh, and I believe, even though I'm sure they haven't said it yet, I'm sure she's going to be given her powers some way through this. And maybe that'll lead to her in America, leading up, what were the Young Avengers,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, and they end up in a quantum world, and so we're also made to believe that Michelle Pfeiffer's character during her time down there, she she knows of some things that's going on down there. And of course, like always, we're not given too much detail, but as we can see them going around the quantum world, we hear Jonathan Majors, who is playing Kang, talking in the background where he's requesting help. I think to get out of this world, if I'm hearing it correctly. And there's for the little bit they gave us, it's super exciting, and kind of like I told Michael, might be where we finally start to get those answers, right? This might be the starting point, which is kind of cool because maybe they were just waiting to get through 2022, 2023. Let's start giving them answers. I don't know. I hope that's the case, but we also got this, and I know Guardians 3 coming soon, so I believe that somewhere right about now we should be getting those answers, but we'll see. Mike, what's your thoughts uh on the Ant-Man trailer?
Yeah. Well, again, we just talked about last week how we were wanting those answers and starting to give the MCU a bit of a break as far as, okay, maybe it's time to move on to some other things because we hadn't seen much. And I was completely fine with that. And now all of a sudden, we get this Ant Man trailer. And, Ant Man, it's a Paul Rudd led cast, and you're always thinking, okay, it's going to be another, funny type of action movie as only Paul Rudd could do. Which again, knowing that going in is fine, but the tone that this movie set was anything but funny. Uh, it might have started off that way, but then when his daughter sends a signal to the quantum universe, and Michelle Pfeiffer's character is like, "No, you did it! Oh my god, turn it off!" And then they just all get sucked into this just massive world. Uh, it starts to quickly turn into something that's, oh, this looks actually pretty big for something that's supposed to be really small. And when you got Jonathan Majors King the Conqueror in there, okay, so now we've got the second version of Kang. We had him from the end of the Loki show, and now we've got him in Ant Man. And as you said, we're not sure what his motives are. Is he trying to get out? Was he sent there as a imprisonment by the Kang from Loki? Because you got to remember that Kang from Loki, was his whole deal was that he had been in war with all the other Kangs, and it got to a point where he got it under control as long as he maintained the timeline. And once that all started to go to crap, then uh, you start to see all these branches diverging and everything. And so you got to wonder if this is a result of one of these branches. And now you have this Kane and Conquer who is trying to get out. And is he the one true, malicious guy out there that's going to be part of this end game for Marvel? So uh, I thought it was pretty good. I thought the trailer was awesome. I think I texted you earlier this week and said, "Well, they just roped me back in." Like I wasn't waiting. Wasn't too hyped about any of the movies coming out other than Black Panther, and then they dropped this trailer, and it's like, oh, okay. And it doesn't look like it's centrally about Paul Rudd's character. It looks like it's about his daughter, and then Kane the Conqueror. So, like you said, hopefully we get some kind of more than a morsel of what's going to be part of the end game for this next group of Marvel movies. And I'm hoping that they do that. I also saw that, I don't know if you noticed, but Bill Murray is in there, so that was also
Mm-hmm.
a surprise to see Bill in there as well. It's like they throw in these random old school character or actors, like even with Ragnarok, uh, we got to see oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name
Russell
now?
Crowe was in there.
No, 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 not Russell Crowe. I'm thinking from Ragnarok, uh, from Jurassic Park.
Oh, I know who you're talking
Oh
about.
my gosh, I'm gonna just kill myself trying to remember that name. But anyway, um, but so you got Bill Murray in there, and of course everybody from the Ant Man movies are reprising their roles in there, and so I think it's gonna be pretty cool. It's kind of like an Ant Man team up with Ant Man, Wasp, and her father and his, or I should say, her father and her mother, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, and then their daughter, because there's a scene where she's in her suit as well.
Jeff
So,
Goldblum, Michael.
oh yeah, Goldblum, yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see it. Hopefully, like you said, it just gives us something, and it looks like it's I saw a headline. It was like, you know, Ant Man, the Ant Man and the Wasp trailer was like Ant Man is basically going like Star Wars type of, saga. And I thought about it, I'm like, it kind of does feel like that because the universe they showed seemed big, and there seemed like a lot of things were going on. And you had this one massive character at the end who looks like he's the main person that they might have to be going after, which was King the Conqueror. So, and this one looks like a more faithful depiction of Kang in his traditional uh, costume from the comics. So I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited too, um, and so let's do some conspiracy theories here. All right. So, what do you think is going to take place in this movie as far as the big thing to go into the rest of the MCU?
Well, so the whole thing was that his daughter um, sent a signal, okay? And that signal that they got back was probably from Kang, bringing them into that universe to help. He saw an opportunity to get out, basically. Uh, and I and what I'm thinking, what this means for the MCU in a larger part, is he's going to get out. Period. And he's going to be out there, and it's up to Ant Man and his family to basically start warning everybody. Look, this is the big bad. We don't know what his plans are. We don't know how this is going to work out. Uh, and it just this may be an opportunity to even throw or sprinkle in some Fantastic Four. Uh, Not that we'll see a character or a cameo or anything like that, but to bring the Fantastic Four, start bringing them into the MCU. As far as maybe we'll see a document, a name, dropped or something like that. So uh, I don't know. I don't know. I think the big thing is that Kang is going to get out of this universe, and that he is going to be, if not the big bad, or him leading to another version of himself. That's going to be the overall big bad for the universe.
You know what? So, kind of going back between Loki and this, I don't believe Kang will get out of the quantum verse, but I think another Kang will appear, right? So I think for the movie, like, I'm not going to say he's going to necessarily die, but he's going to get trapped wherever he is, and then another version of him is going to reappear somewhere else. At least that would be my assessment. And then I do believe there'll be a cameo of a new hero. I don't know who that is, and I don't know to what extent, but I feel like and I don't mean Cassie when I say that, like getting her large powers or anything like that. I think that someone will appear in here that will kind of help bridge the gap to the other movies, but I think we'll have to see how that goes. So, Mike, do you think this will be the last Ant-Man movie, or do you see others coming down the pipeline?
No, I think this will be the last one. I'm trying to think. With all the character series that they've had going on, the only series that has gone on for more than 3 movies, to my knowledge, has been Thor.
Yeah,
And
I believe so.
so I can't really see them doing another Ant-Man, because I feel like this one is, again, one of those bridging type of movies, right? Where and this is just cross your fingers, hope this happens. Uh, they're introducing just a big bad, okay, and so and not only that, and as far as introducing new characters, although she may not be new, we could get a cameo from America Chavez because she is a person that could go in between universes. Okay, and
That's a good point.
so we could see that because all everything that's being set up is to establish a new set of Avengers, right? Um, and so I think from here on out, we'll see more of uh, Ant Man's daughter in future movies, and it's gonna be like more cameo type movies, I believe, or at least that's my thinking on it. And this is kind of phasing out, Paul Rudd's character,
Mm,
um, and Evangeline Lilly's character. Because I can't see them doing much more than this because they're both old. I mean, Paul Rudd's 50 for crying out loud. He don't look 50.
yeah.
Uh, he looks like he's still in his 30s. Uh, but I can't imagine seeing them doing more Ant-Man movies. Not that they haven't been successful in the theater, but they're not like the Iron Man, Captain America, Prophet type of movies. And I think the only reason I don't know I don't know the only reason we had another Thor movie because it didn't really bridge anything.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know if this was more of a okay, now we can't end the Thor series on Thor Ragnarok because there's just still too much because Thor Ragnarok was pretty much a lead into Infinity War. Um, and so now we have to have another Thor movie to end out that and just to have it be cameos after that. Because that's what it was for, Iron Man, Captain America. Uh, we still got one more Spider-Man movie to go. Um, yeah, I can't see it going past more than 3 movies at this point.
Mm. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens and see how this movie ends. Um, it might be over for the movies, but I wonder will Scott Lang and them be in other movies, like just kind of like how they came together in Game or Civil War and things like that. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But we'll just have to wait until February to get some answers. So let's get to some other news. And this one is kind of big doings, but we kind of knew it was happening because people like to spoil movies these days, right? So of course, it was leaked the ending scene of Black Adam, where we were told that Superman was in the end credits, and him and Black Adam met face to face. Well, now we've got more news that Henry Cavill has released himself. Uh, this is from the LA Times. After years of speculation, Henry Cavill is indeed returning to the DC Extended Universe as the Man of Steel. Hey everyone, I, I waited until the weekend was over before posting this because I wanted to give you all a chance to watch Black Adam. The British actor said Monday in an Instagram video referencing the Dwayne Johnson comic book flick that just premiered. But now that plenty of you have, it's official. I'm back. And then so it goes on to talk about his role in there, which I won't talk about because I still haven't seen it, and I want to see it. So we have Henry Cavill back as Superman, and from my understanding, even though I don't have the article here in front of me, he's also going. I think he went in the old costume that from back in the day because I know there was a lot of people who were complaining about the costume from the Man of Steel. I don't know if that's true. Mike, do you know if that's true?
I'm sure it is true because everybody finds something to nitpick about, especially costumes for these superheroes. I mean, or just how they look. Just think of you know Thor: Love and Thunder. How people were fucking pissed about Christian Bale's uh, how he looked as Gore, the God Butcher, and having a nose, and
Really? I didn't even know that.
oh yeah, people were losing their minds because he had a nose and did he didn't have like the entails on his head like he does in the comic books. It's like It's such a small thing to nitpick about, but I think that's just a common thing these days to nitpick on people's outfits or how they look. I personally didn't have a problem with Henry Cavill's, uh, Man of Steel uniform, or costume. So I can totally see people complaining about that. That doesn't much seem like a surprise to me.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts about Henry Cavill coming back?
I mean, I love it. I think before, especially, you and I growing up in the 80s and seeing those Superman movies from our boy Christopher Reeve, God rest his soul. Uh, I think that we grew up with a certain image of what Superman should look like and should be. And so other iterations of him, we always compare that to Christopher Reeve's Superman. And some have been okay, some have been decent. But now that you have Henry as Superman, when he first came out in Man of Steel, and that was a very polarizing movie. Um, people didn't like the way I guess his uniform or costume looked. They didn't like the fact that he killed Zod in the end. Uh, and so they gave him a very, or I should say, Henry's version of Superman is certainly a much darker tone compared to Christopher Reeves or even the comic book Superman. And for me, at least, I loved him. I feel like he not only with the look, because anybody can get the look down with the hair and anything like that, but with the power, like you compare Henry Cavill to Christopher Reeve or Brandon Routh, uh, Superman, and sure, you can make these guys look like they can lift a train or punch somebody into space, but man, you could believe Henry Cavill looks like he's a guy that can lift a train and punch somebody into space. He looks powerful, and so, and then to pull off that, uh, Clark Kent kind of nerdy, wanting to do other kind of different things. He pulls that off too, because we know for a fact that in real life, Henry Cavill is he's a true nerd. And so I have always been on his side as being Superman, and I'm so glad that he's coming back into the DC universe. I'm curious though about what you think about this, because it does say that he is at least getting one standalone movie, and the fact that they're bringing him back, does that mean they're going to go ahead with the post-apocalyptic where he becomes basically a bad Superman, uh, bends everybody to his will, and you have Batman and others along with the Joker, uh, seemingly like rebels trying to take him on? I wonder if they're going to continue with that storyline.
Hmm. That'd be interesting. I won't I don't know, but I'll speak a little bit more about that a little later with another article. But I did want to bring up, so since Henry Cavill is coming back as Superman, it's been announced through Netflix that he will be leaving the show The Witcher and no longer playing Geralt of the Rivia. And they will now give this character to Liam Hemsworth, right? And so this is another article here posted on social media. Cavill wrote, "My journey as Gerald the Rivia has been filled with both monsters and adventure, and alas, I will be laying down my medallion and my swords for season 4. In my stead, the fantastic Liam Hemsworth will be taking up the mantle of the White Wolf, as with the greatest of literary characters, I pass the torch with reverence for the time spent embodying Geralt and enthusiasm to see Liam take on the most fascinating and nuanced of men." Yeah, so as soon as he released this, most people were like, "Hey, look, man, you might as well just go ahead and cancel the show." uh, which I must admit I was kind of the same tone as well. Not to say that Liam can't do the role, just because of the fact that I don't know, I just don't feel like it's necessary to change it. The show's pretty good, but I don't think it's good enough that people will be accepting that change in the main character for the show to move on. but we'll see. Mike, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I really love the Witcher series. Again, I feel like this is an example of when an actor is really passionate about a certain character. And this applies to Superman as well. Because you can see the dude is passionate about being Superman. Nobody goes to all this work to try and get Superman back without being passionate about. It's not about the money grab or anything like that. Um, Nobody goes through all the heartache and the stress from listening to social media or fans at cons that are giving you flack for certain things without really loving that character. It's the same thing for Witcher. Witcher is a video game series that millions and millions of people love, and they could have put anybody in that role. But they put Henry Cavill in it, and he knocked it out the park. I could totally believe him as the character Geralt from the video games. Uh, to have Hemsworth in there, I like you. I don't. Hemsworth's a fine actor, uh, and this would be something that I think he could do well in, especially for the action of it. I just don't know if he has that edge to play that character, that darkness to play that character. Because to me, Hemsworth, between him and his brother, they're the goody two shoe, perfect blonde, like that's what people want to see on uh a romantic movie or romantic action, whatever. Like, they're the supermodels, right? It's very hard to see them in very gritty type roles. And granted, with his older brother doing I can't think of the name of the movie on Netflix, but where he basically played a mercenary rescuing a kid. It was a very surprising role for me to see him in, because it was gritty. It was tough. So I mean, maybe he could pull it off. I don't know, but I'm gonna miss Henry playing that role in The Witcher. So uh, if it means that Henry is going to be doing more Superman type stuff, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, to be honest with you, I didn't even know that we were getting a Witcher 3, season 3. So just to know that we're getting that, I'm more than happy to just have season 3, and then season 4 we'll play it by ear and see how it goes. I haven't seen Liam in enough to say well, Liam did, funny enough, the one thing that I really liked Liam in wasn't even on, I guess you could say, regular television. They used to have that mobile TV network called QB. I think it was QB back in the day, where they used to have these 15-minute TV shows because they were like, hey, let's condense a show for your phone. And he was dealing with a situation where he accepted some money, but by doing so, he was now being hunted. And it was a pretty cool concept. And I personally, I didn't get to see the show myself, but the trailer uh, was fantastic. And so because of that, I was like, oh, this guy can really do some things, because I didn't know much about his particular roles. I had just seen just a handful of other things that he'd been in that was like severely low budgeted or whatnot. So this is his chance to really show if he has some acting chops.
Yeah, I think at least for me, as far as what I've seen him in, I know a lot of people have recognized him from the Hunger Games movies.
Mm.
And then he his brief moment in The Sunshine, uh when he was in Expendables, which I thought was funny because I was like, okay, cool, you're in Expendables, but why are you what gave you the right to be in Expendables? It's supposed to be a movie about guys who have been doing action movies all the time. Uh, and he didn't last long in that movie. So pretty sure John Claude Van Damme put a knife through his chest.
Mm.
So, between that, and then, yeah, Independence Day Resurgence, which was a trash fire. uh, so, but in all those roles, even though they were action roles, he always played the pretty boy. Um, And so to go from that to The Witcher, uh, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a type of role for him.
Mm.
Uh, but who knows? Maybe he could pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get to some other news. As we were talking about the DCU, the DCEU, and I'm actually really happy about this. I'm really happy about this for a lot of stuff. Embattled DCEU boss Walter Hamada parts ways with Warner Brothers. DC Films president Walter Hamada has stepped down from his role, ending a tenure at DC that's been defined with both controversy both on and off screen. Hamada has maintained a job as studio boss since 2018, having re-upped in 2021 for 2 years, has officially left the studios Burbank, California after resigning. The company now prepares to make the outgoing boss final payout, thereby making a tectonic shift in the DCEU. The move also notably occurs on the cusp of the DCEU's long-awaited comeback to theaters with Black Adam. A few other things that came from this is that how Hamada during the pandemic altered times, he how he changed the landscape. So that's why he is one of the reasons why we got all those exclusives to HBO Max, which respectfully I did love. I'm glad about that part, even though because of that we did lose out on things like Batgirl. Another thing that came out of this too was Hamada's tenure was brought with negative headlines, especially regarding Justice League cyborg actor Ray Fisher, who accused him of enabling the allegedly toxic and abusive behavior behind the scenes. Bigwigs, most notably director Josh Whedon. Over the past few years, an increasingly candid Fisher started to make a frequent public target of Hamada, at whom he believes the buck stopped when it came to his grievances during the subsequent investigation. Um, and so now they were mentioning that DC Films was in search of their own Kevin Feige. And before, Mike, I get you to talk on Walter Hamada, we might as well just say DC did find their own Walter Hamada because they went ahead and got James Gunn. And they decided to go with what looks like a co-representation. So what they did is they hired James Gunn and Peter Serafin to lead film, TV, and animation division exclusively for DC. So, in a stunning turn of events, filmmaker James Gunn and producer Peter Safran have been tapped to lead DC's films, TV, and animation efforts as co-chairs and co-CEOs of DC Studios, a newly formed division at Warner Brothers that will replace DC Films. The unprecedented move, in which a top director will assume a top executive post, marks the end of a months-long search by Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav to replace DC film boss Walter Hamada, who departed the studio last week, which was from my previous article. And so, a few things that come from this is that Gunn will focus on the creative side of things, while Safran will focus on the business and production side. Both are expected to continue to direct and produce projects respectfully. They will report directly to Zaslav and work closely with Warner Brothers film bosses DeLuca and Pamela Abdi. And so sources say the deal runs for 4 years and Gunn will be exclusive to DC. The goal is for them not to just produce, but to truly function as executives, even as Gunn will occasionally hone a movie. All right. So that's a lot to take in. But I will let you start, Mike, and then because I got quite a bit to say about all of this.
Yeah, so I think it's a step in the right direction. Um, and to split up that role, I think was a smart move. One of the issues that you come into with a lot of big companies uh, is that you'll put people in certain positions where they wear too many hats. Um, and they try to do too many things, and anytime you get that, it's just never a good situation. You need to have people that are focused on certain aspects of the business. And so whether it's the financials or the creativity of it, uh, you got to have somebody in both roles. And I think that was the right call. I think James Gunn has done a good job of reinvigorating some life into the DC um, universe. Of course, with Suicide Squad, but even more probably with Peacemaker. Um, and I think that having somebody who can really understand characters better than Saffron, instead of when we first started seeing the DC movies, it was your classic formula of put these well-known characters into some really crazy situations, throw some CG in there, and that'll give us, 100 million at box office or 200 million, whatever. Um, Instead of, hey, we understand who these characters are, we're going to build a story around it. That's what Kevin's big thing was in, or is in the MCU, is his understanding of how the characters are and what they represent. And he didn't go for the traditional like what Warner Brothers and Sony have done. He went for, okay, let's build a story around these characters, around the larger, it's not like it's a one-to-one, with the MCU. Iron Man movies, Captain America movies, Thor movies were not one-to-one to the comic books. F- few adaptations are. But the essence and uh, the understanding of those characters did translate. Anybody who's read any kind of Iron Man, book, and it's not just with casting too, but with the writing, understands or certainly recognizes and can relate to the movie version even though it wasn't one to one. Captain America is the same way. It's one of the reasons why I loved Captain America uh, movies over most of the movies in the MCU because I knew how Captain America was in the books. I didn't know how that would translate into the movies, and they made some departures, uh, but they did it in a way that made sense because they understood the character. Now, the biggest complaint with DC was that they didn't understand the characters. A lot of people were miffed about Superman killing off uh, General Zod because that's not his thing. A lot of people were kind of miffed about the the seemingly killings of Batman and Batman v Superman. A lot of people were miffed because that's not Batman's character. He doesn't kill, um, and unless it's an alien or something like that, right? And so that threw people off. So I think James is going to do well. We'll see. I'm hoping he's going to do well. I want to see the DCEU uh, succeed. It doesn't have to be like Marvel, you know. It just has to, like The Rock said, they just got to do their own thing. Okay, be their own identity. Stop trying to compete with somebody who's already done it and done it their way. Just do you. And as long as they do that, I think they're going to be all right. So my only concern is cool. You're making this change at the top. All right. Is Warner really going to stick to their guns? It's like bringing in, and just to bring in sports terminology, it's like bringing in a new head coach or bringing in a rookie football player for a quarterback. Or man, I'm talking like I don't know sports. Bringing in a quarterback to a new football team. Okay, and you either stick with him and watch him develop and uh, see him succeed in the future, or are you going to look at his 2 or 3 games where he had 2 or 3 interceptions and no touchdowns, and then pull him? Nope, nope. Okay, let's try something else. Okay, so you have this massive inconsistency. All right, the teams that do well generally stick with their quarterback. The teams that don't do well. Okay, being a Bears guy, I've seen this firsthand. Um, so hopefully, yes, James Gunn. Um, actually, I was misspoke earlier, but yeah. So hopefully, James Gunn and Peter Safran can have that support from the top to continue to see their vision out. Uh, let it play out. We'll just see if the leaders at the top have enough patience for that.
So I will say that the reason so first thing to kind of go off of what you just said, I think first things first, they just have to create a better culture for these films, because even from everyone who we've heard that it just never goes right, and not necessarily on set, but just the creatives and all the other stuff. Now, the beauty of this is, DC, well, excuse me, Warner Brothers has kind of exchanged hands a couple times. So now they're working with a blank canvas, respectfully. That's why they're trimming the fat off of a lot of stuff as well. Uh, so one of the other things that come out of this as well, is that I don't expect James Gunn to really direct anything at the moment. But what I do expect him to do is, and then I guess the other first thing is we have to get this particular amount of DC movies out of the way. And when I say that, I'm talking about Shazam. I know there's a Wonder Woman 3 coming. Aquaman 2 should be coming out sometime soon. The Flash movie will be coming out, and who knows what else is after that, right? And then so after that, I would like, by then, by time this cycle ends, some sort of explanation of how things are going to move forward, compared to, like, are we going to keep the normal Justice League? Are we going to go ahead and kind of alter that a bit? Are we going to are they going to all play in the same universe? Are we going to have these multiverses? The Batman, from my understanding, excuse me, the Batman is going to have a sequel. There's going to be the Penguin TV show. And then, mind you, he's also in charge of TV and animation. So, are we going to do like before, where the Flash, Arrow verse, whatever you want to call it, and the movie verse are not talking to each other? Are we going to now bring those two together? So, those are a few questions, of course, that have to get answered. But I think, just more than anything, uh, when you hear the name James Gunn, he's talked about in such a different light than, for example, your Josh Whedon, even your Zack Snyder, for that matter, right? And a lot of those individuals that James Gunn has worked for, have ate off of the James Gunn. Like, he's almost like, to an extent, like your Adam Sandler, right? You might not like Adam Sandler movies, but Adam Sandler has consistently kept particular actors who probably wouldn't be acting anymore eating, because they consistently work with him on whatever movie. And I think the same thing will happen to James Gunn. Like, you'll see his brother in something. You'll see, I can't recall his name, but he was in The Walking Dead, and he was in Suicide Squad. They just always show up. But he also has these big names that would, I think, jump through hoops for him, just because of the atmosphere he creates. So I think, I give, number one, kudos to DC for, number one, because they got rid of basically their DC Entertainment, and they created DC Films. So they are trying to completely start from scratch, and really bring this thing back up. So I think that's a great sign. I hope it also helps to increase the visibility of some of the TV shows, and some of the visibility for some of the animation, because their animation department does a great job. But I will admit, from in the past to now, it's been kind of cold over there. We don't really hear about too many projects like we do. Like Super Sons, I think, just came out recently, and I can't say if it's even getting any attention, right? Titans has really started to go through its paces, and from my understanding, has gotten so much better. But I don't think anyone knows about it, right? And we can, harken back to Amazon Prime about how they barely advertise on certain things. But, this is DC, and they have some very well tenured stories, just like Marvel does. So I'm really excited to see, number one, who James hires to do directing, and to bring other aspects to these films, and I want to see how much they go into the history of DC, right? Like the JSA, to me, it was cool to see them finally hit the big screen, right? I'm hoping that someone will finally fix Green Lantern, right? Whether it's Hal Jordan or it's Dave Stewart, excuse me, John Stewart. um there's that is history that should be brought itself, right? We all know the problem with Hal Jordan. Most of the time he's boring, right? And they haven't no one has made him very captivating. There's a lot of things you could do with John Stewart. It just depends who you get to play the actor you get to play the character, and things like that. And there's some other characters that be interesting to see. Lobo might be an interesting character to take a stab at, as well as a few others. So I think this is a great start. Of course, like anything, there's some cautiousness that's going to be taken as we see how things play out. But um, I think James Gunn is being given a blank check because of how they've altered so much of this stuff to work out in their favor. Because it makes no sense that these properties aren't more profitable than they already are. But we'll see how things go.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I like I said, my only concern is how patient are they going to be? You know, do we? And I guess my other concern is too is we've just watched Black Adam come out. We just confirmed there's Henry Cavill's coming back as Superman, and that he's going to have at least one standalone movie. Are they going to cancel the Zack Snyder verse? Um, because what do you do with Batman? All right, you just came out with a new Batman movie that, like you said, is already gonna have a sequel, and it's already has a spinoff series. Uh, is that its own universe? And if it is, are you gonna tell people that? Because I feel like we talked about with Marvel, there's no real end game that's been talked about, but we know that the TV shows and the movies are all tied together. Okay. Um, with DC though, and this is something that James and Peter are going to have to finagle and figure out. How do you brief everybody and say, look, all right, we have this, and we have this is movie A, TV shows B, animated shows C. None of them are in the same universe. Okay, they're all doing their own thing, and that's just how it's going to be. Or hey, they're all in their separate universe, and we're going to have Infinite Crisis in 8 years, and it's going to bring all of them together. Something. What's the how do you tie stuff into that? Because to be honest, like, even the Joker movie, right? Um, are those movies just standoffs, one shots? Like I almost wish the Batman was just one movie done, because now I just feel it's confusing, where you're gonna have the Batman, but in this other universe is Ben Affleck coming back to be Batman? Are you just gonna recast that role? Like I think James has a lot of work to do. He's got a lot
Well,
of work to do.
I think the thing is like, because they did that with the Batman, the Joker, where they told people that. The thing is, though, I think more than anything is just the fact of what they're going to have to deal with is how do you get casuals to the theater. One of the problems was the fact that no one came to see these movies. They didn't come to see the Justice League. They didn't come really to see Wonder Woman. None of them ever hit numbers that even were even close to comparing to something that Marvel brought out. And that's one of the other downsides of this. And then the other side of it is yeah, I agree with you that are they going to look at this at a comic book standpoint, or are they just trying to bring out films? But the thing is, we don't even know what will be the first movie that James Gunn is going to actually bring out, right? Because there's so much stuff that was already on the hook, already been filmed, and now it's almost ready for it to be released. So we have to just kind of dredge through that. So it probably won't even be until late 2024, which I think is the Joker movie before, or the Batman movie before they even get started. So I think that's it sounds kind of bad, but that might be the good thing because now they got time to really sit down and put something together. There's no rush.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work to, as you mentioned, how do you get people in to see all this stuff, the casuals in to see all this stuff, and
Mhm.
how do you keep them from not being confused about this stuff?
Well,
You
here's the
know?
thing. I don't even think you have to worry about that right now. The thing is that it's making no money, right?
Right, right.
So
But if you're gonna
I
go in one direction
mhm,
and say you got all these movies in the pipeline already and go in
mhm,
this direction, okay, with the
mhm,
current Black Adam, Superman, Flash, whatever,
mhm,
and then by 2024 you have the other Batman movie come out that's going in a completely different direction.
mhm,
How do you reconcile those two things with casual people? Because now you've gotten people used to seeing these types of movies for the last few years. Okay, now here's the Batman. Okay, and we're continuing that. Like how do you reconcile, by the time you get to that point, oh nope, this is just another the Batman is its own separate thing.
mhm.
The Joker is its own separate thing by this point. And that's fine if you do, but my concern is how do you, reconcile it? How's that going to impact, those numbers? By the time you get to 2024 Batman, are they expected to see the Batman from these movies that you've been putting out for the last 2 years? Or do you just continue to bank on the first movie's success and continue on with that? That's my only concern. Like, how do you reconcile that, and how do you get that word out to the people?
Well, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but let's be real. Most people thought that the Avengers movie were done at Infinity War, and they still came back for Endgame. And when I said I'm talking about the casuals, they didn't think there was a to be continued. So I think with anything, as long as you make it good, they will come, right? It's just the fact of making it good right now, which is going to probably be the bigger emphasis instead of making these universes work. Like the comic book side of me wants to make it work and make it all intertwined. But I don't know if that's what DC's intent is at the moment, right? Because right now, all these disjointed stories that it takes 3 hours for it to make sense is not going to work, especially as more and more people, to me, don't have the time span for that. So I think more than anything is making this stuff work, making the, like, for example, Superman, how do you make him Superman? You know, or I don't know. Like I would look at something like, how bad that Wonder Woman 1984 was. How do you reinvigorate that? How do you deal with Ezra Miller's crap? Those are to me the bigger challenges before you even consolidate, because that's going to be, at least for the next 2 years, that's going to be the major focus, right? And then I will agree with one thing though. James Gunn is going to be as good as whatever those first week numbers are on the first movie with his name on it, right? So if he comes in hot and he only gets 80 million that first week when they're expecting 120 to 150, of course, like again, those there'll be a major shuffling of our conversations had, you know. So there's that, because I don't know. And the thing is, they're not the first to do it. Then you're also dealing with superhero fatigue and the TV shows and all that. He's got a lot to deal with, that will take place. So good luck to him.
Yeah, and I think that I yeah, I don't know. I guess when I think about it, like you just mentioned, like superhero fatigue, where's the trust? People keep coming out to see Marvel movies. Um, we've just talked about how like we're waiting for that big moment, and seemingly they've given us an opportunity to see that big moment in the next Ant-Man movie. Um, but how do you get that trust back with the DC movies? With how bad Wonder Woman was, with how bad Justice League was, um, and then having to wait years for uh, a Snyder, the Snyder cut,
Mm,
and then even when that came out, it was here's your black and white 3x4 or 4x3
yeah.
version, you
Well, I
know,
mean, I will just say that I mean, remember them Batman was it Batman and Robin movie and the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, they don't age well at all. So, I mean, there's always a chance. I just don't know because here's the other thing. Batman is your only popular character. He's almost in a realm as Spider-Man, or
right,
even maybe beyond that. So how do you make Wonder Woman and Superman become, which can be done because Captain America wasn't really hidden like that at one time,
right.
right?
Well,
I mean,
Captain America and Iron Man, those were
absolutely, and
not they
Thor.
were not popular characters at the time,
No.
you know?
So, if given the right, like you said, Mike, given the right people in the room, they can make they can make this thing special. The thing is they gotta down do it for the times, right? Because like I would love to say that, hey, make a movie for me, but you gotta get the younger crowd who's going to get on TikTok and YouTube and really talk about these movies, right? And if all they're going to do is say that they're messes, it's not going to be a good look, you know. So again, I wish them all the luck in the world. If there's anyone who I think can do it and kind of bridge that gap, he'd be one of them. And I don't think there's a big list of people who could sit in that Kevin Feige ish seat
Right.
uh there. I mean, and then if anything else, if I was James Gunn, I don't know if he's still at DC. I believe he is. If you don't give Brian Michael Bendis a bag and tell him to come with you to help you build out this universe, and then maybe some other writers who have helped bring DC to what it is. I don't know if Jeff Johns is even allowed in the room anymore,
Right.
but whoever else that is formidable DC writers, I don't know who that would be at the time. Whoever's writing Superman, because I heard this is some of the best Superman being written right now. Get those guys in the room to help build this out and make some sense of it. So, yeah, I don't know. All right. So we're going to skip on some of these other news things and we're going to get straight into our project this week. Mike, you came up with the project this week. So how about you go ahead and explain what our project this week was?
Yeah. So basically, this week we decided we were going to, because of Halloween being on Monday, we decided we were going to pick a horror game to play through and talk about it for this episode. And I would say that the one game that I didn't expect, I was actually set to just really play Alan Wake. Um, I felt like that was going to be a good Halloween game that I thought would get me back into like the horror series and stuff like that. I didn't want to play Resident Evil. I wanted to play something that I hadn't really played before, and so I was getting set to do that. And then I saw a review of Alan Wake for the Nintendo Switch. And granted, it's completely different from the Steam Deck. Just the performance issues were massively terrible. I mean, another reason why I'm glad I got the Steam Deck, because when you bring in third party games or port third party games over to the Steam Deck, they're hit or miss. Um, and Alan Wake was a miss. The resolutions were very bad. The frame rates apparently were atrocious. They were trying to hit 30 frames per second. They couldn't even do that. Um, and then just see how everything came together, just really bad. So then I was like, okay, let me try it out in Steam Deck, and I did for about an hour or so. But the problem with games like Alan Wake and even Resident Evil for me is that I had to have time to play them, and it's not exactly a game that you can just pick up and go. Uh, so instead, I went to a game that I had given an impressions on before, and I really started to get into it because it is a I can suspend the Steam Deck and get it going again, and that's Carrion. Um, and this game is, I guess you could call it a like a reverse horror. Like, it's you're not playing like the typical guy versus an alien monster. You're playing the monster. Um, and I don't know if you remember, there was a horror movie back in the day. It was a sci-fi horror movie back in the day with, I was gonna say Russell Crowe, but it's not Russell Crowe. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of his name now. Kevin or Kurt Russell. Um, and The Thing, that's what it's called. And so it's a movie back in the day called The Thing. And it was basically these people in a research facility in the I want to say it was the Antarctic, and they came upon this alien-esque like monster that could take the form of anybody. But by the end of the movie, they started throwing fire at it, and it just turned into this messy blob of a character that had these tendrils that would come out and snatch you and kill you, and had this big gaping mouth. Well, if you think about that, and then think about this game, it's almost the exact same thing. You start the game as this small little alien blob that's kind of moving around by using these tendrils or tentacles. I'll call them tendrils because tentacles implies like octopus, but like these tendrils um, that you use to move around this top secret military research facility. And as you go throughout the game, you start to go into you get access to certain areas that will give you memories of what happened before. And it turns out that basically you were a scientist that got infected by something and you turn into this monstrous blob, and you're trying to get out of this facility and get out into the world. And the cool thing about this is as you consume, humans or the scientists, the military personnel, your mass increases and you gain new abilities. And the atmosphere in this game is totally reminiscent of classic sci-fi horror where you'll have the scientists react to you and they'll scream and they'll run for their lives. Um, and then even when you pick them up with your tendrils and you're waving them around and you're smashing them into things, you can smash them into other people. And then you can basically eat them with the big jaw that's in the middle of the mass. Uh, the sound effects, the voice acting is just phenomenal. It really gets you involved, and it kind of sounds uh perverted and sick uh to be the bad guy and to be the person that is even consuming the non-armed scientist civilians. But it's like, man, I get a perverse sense of sneaking up on somebody and just totally annihilating them. At one point in the game, there's a an ability you get to cloak yourself, and to be able to cloak yourself, move past the enemy, and then snatch them up from behind, and as you snatch them up, they're screaming like, "Oh God, no, no!" And um, like you can dismember them, like their bodies get cut in half, and so you would think it's like, well, that seems like a really easy thing, but no, like. Uh, Once you run into the military personnel, your basic cat's got rifles, whatever, but you've got guys with flamethrowers. You got guys with like these electric shields. You got guys in mech armor uh, shooting these automatic weapons. You got sentry, like these drones that come out. Uh, and it's a really fun game. There are definitely some platforming aspects to it. There's some strategy that goes involved. You can't just like straight on run up to any military personnel, or even like there's scientists that are armed. And if you do, you'll lose mass and eventually die. Uh, but again, like I said, you can regain that mass by just consuming people. Not everybody is consumable, uh, and so it's a very interesting game. It's super fun. The graphics are amazing. The lighting is really amazing. Don't get hit by the flamethrowers. The flamethrowers will snatch you up and burn your entire body. You got to find a water source nearby just to extinguish that kind of fire. So it's a fun game. I'm really enjoying this. Man, I have no idea how far I am into the game. I've been playing it for hours this week. Um, every day at work I played this game, and this is a game you can play docked. This is a game you can play handheld, and it still looks great. Still runs at 60 frames per second. It's just a really fun game, and I've been having a lot of fun with it.
So it pretty much sounds like you're the Venom symbiote, and now you're taking out your anger on all the scientists that are keeping you at bay. I mean, of course, it's not the same exact story, but just listening to how you're talking about the mass. I mean, of course, it's not shaped like it because I just looked at some film of it just to.
Yeah, but with those tendrils coming
Hmm.
out, it's kinda like that, you know? And you're just snatching people up and you're it's super fun. And you don't always move around as this huge mass. There are times where you need to actually, uh, separate your mass, leave it in an area, because when you have a certain amount of mass, you have certain powers. Um, so when you're small, you have a certain subset of powers, and then when you get big, those powers change into something else. And sometimes you had to go small, even in the advanced areas, to either conquer some type of you know, platforming puzzle or to take out a certain enemy. You know, it's not always let's just throw as much mass into it as we possibly can because the larger you are, the it is actually harder. You do move slower versus the smaller mass. You can zip around the screen pretty fast, and so it's pretty fun. And I think that the like I said, the environment, the sounds, the sound effects, the lighting, the voices that you hear from the personnel in the military site, the research site, really brings it all together. And the music too. I mean, it's just gives you that really sense of like foreboding, but for like the civilians and the military personnel. Because there are times I'm like, oh yeah, I'm scoping out a room, and I'm like, I'm about to mess y'all up. Like finally,
Hmm.
I get to be the bad guy. So uh that's what I've been playing this week. I did mention uh at the beginning of the show, Death Road to Canada. That's more of a zombie survival game, which is also a lot of fun that I think people should check out too, as far as multiplayer goes. But um, to get a there's so many games out there. I actually almost got the Aliens movie, but the Aliens game. Uh,
Aliens Isolation, or
yeah,
there's a few of
Isolation.
them.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Isolation was the one I almost did, but I felt I wasn't ready for that yet because that's one that has to be played in the dark with headphones on. Um, right now, I'm playing Carry On, uh, at work with the lights on and on speakers. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, so the game I picked this week was Days Gone, which is a PlayStation game. It was a PlayStation 4 game that got released back in 2019, and then it came to the PC in 2021. And I've just been waiting for the price to drop. And this game had a lot of drama because of the fact of its mixed reviews, where people were complaining about the story, mission design, and technical issues. But uh, I've been playing it this week and only played it for about 2 hours, to be fair with you. But um, talking about so far from what I've seen of it, to me, it seems like a blast. So let's give you a little bit of what the game is about. The game is set in post-apocalyptic Oregon, 2 years after the start of a pandemic that turned a portion of humanity into vicious zombie-like creatures called freakers. Former outlaw turned drifter Deacon St. John discovers his wife Sarah, having been assumed dead, may still be alive and goes on a quest to find her. Days Gone is played from a third person perspective in which the character can explore an open world environment. Players can use firearms, melee weapons, blah, 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 blah. A major game mechanic is Deacon's motorcycle, which can be used as the player's main mode of transportation. And so, right now, from the bit that I played, I'm working hand in hand with the AI, where we've been going through and trying to find supplies. And you have all these particular type of zombies, right? Of course, we're all used to, let's say, at the beginning of Resident Evil, the Resident Evil zombies that just walked, didn't run. In this game, you have a couple different type of zombies. That you have those who, for example, you have freakers, mindless zombie-like creatures that evolve quickly. Swarmers, a nocturnal type of freaker, hide in nests during daytime, but often congregate, wander around, and search for food and water at night. Uh, and so you have all these different type of zombie classes that you have to deal with. And so the thing I'll say is that this game was visually stunning, and right now, because I like things on the Steam Deck, which I haven't played it on the Steam Deck yet. I played it on my PC, and to record some footage for some things we want to try out. But the game was beautiful, and it runs well. I know it's going to run well on the Steam Deck. I just haven't seen it yet. I do wonder if it's going to do like God of War, where it kind of pixelates on the sides and just kind of focuses on the main thing that you're looking at. But we'll get to that point when we get there. But I think this is one of them titles that's because there's not a sequel coming. This title has kind of become like a cult classic because PlayStation doesn't have any intentions of doing much more with it. But because it's gotten, I guess you could say, its second pace when it came out for PlayStation. I mean, it came out for PC. It's now hitting a whole bunch of audiences that have been really looking for a sequel. And unfortunately, one of the people who worked on it, when it was asked about a sequel, he was like, "Y'all should have bought the game the first time around, and then you would have got a sequel." Because unfortunately, just kind of like with movies too, same thing kind of happens with games. If you have a AAA title, like as much money went to Days Gone, and it doesn't sell well, there's very slim chances of us getting a sequel. Like, for example, the way that I always look at it is the Judge Dredd movie that came out a couple years back with Carl Urban was phenomenal, but it didn't sell well. So unfortunately, we never got a sequel.
Right.
And so, we'll have to wait a couple years for someone who wants to reinvigorate that franchise and see if they could bring something back out. But the same thing with Days Gone. I don't see Days Gone coming out again, but uh, from what we got from it, it's really well done. I say give it a shot if you haven't given it a shot. I can't wait to continue to play this game on my Steam Deck and beat it because it's one of those titles that it's one and done. I look at it the way I kind of look at Uncharted, right? You go through it one time and you can put it down. They tried not to make you do that with Spider-Man and a few other titles,
Hmm.
Horizon Dawn, where they come out with a DLC to try to hold you longer. But those are usually one and done as well. But they're trying to convince you to play longer. This game isn't. It's like, hey, finish the story, do your thing, and we'll holler at you later.
Now, is this like The Last of Us?
I would say no. And even though The Last of Us, in a sense, has a similar kind of plot, this one focuses. So, like Last of Us focuses on being a bit more stealth and a bit more strategic on how you use, kind of like Resident Evil, being a bit more strategic on how you use your ammunition, how you get through certain things. There's times where you're gonna have to do a lot. But if I was to think of Last of Us, I would think Resident Evil and Uncharted put together, just for what you're doing in that game. For Days Gone, this one makes me think more of Horizon Dawn, right? Where it's
Oh,
like,
okay.
hey, here's an objective. This is how you take care of it. This is the end, right?
So it's a little bit more, I guess, more open world
Yes,
than
even though I
Last of
haven't
Us.
gotten to the yes, even though I haven't gotten to the open world portion. Yeah, correct. Because Last of Us, I think it's just you go through the level, but there's
Right,
no
because you kind of
varying.
have a set path that you gotta go through,
Yep.
um, where it seems like this one is more like you said, you got your objective. It's up to you to how to
How you want to tackle
complete
it.
that objective. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, like I said, it's a really fun game for what I played so far. I can't wait to play more of it. Again, this is another game where I kind of wish, like, man, where's the co-op, right? You
Right,
know,
right.
every time I play these certain games, it goes, where's the co-op? Like, why is this guy AI? When this would be kind of dope. It was me and another individual doing whatever.
Is
Now,
this verified on Steam?
yes, it is. I just haven't let it finish downloading on my Steam Deck. But and again, like I said, I need to get footage. OBS only work. I know it. I heard rumors it works on Steam Deck, but I went with what works. So, yeah, I definitely would say. Days Gone is one of them games. Like I say, like Mike, I know how long it took you to beat Spider-Man. I think you could do the same thing with Days Gone, right?
Okay.
Where if you play a couple minutes, a mission here, a mission there, by the end of the week, you've beaten the game, type of
Right.
thing.
Right.
So, all right.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say what's funny, when you talked about, OBS, I literally, before we started recording, just saw a thing pop up on my YouTube about, how to install OBS on Steam, but in parentheses, the easy way. So I'm kind of excited to check it out because before it was you had to go through a lot of hoops and you could only do it in desktop mode. So it'd be interesting to see. I want to watch that video because it'd be interesting to see if you could do that in game mode while recording. Because that would be kind of a game changer for it.
I agree. Or if they did something, because Steam has a streaming, or I guess a recording function built into Steam that I don't think anyone really uses. If they even built that you could just record your gameplay footage, that would be clutch. Because only reason I say that is um, the power that OBS uses, something would suffer, right?
Right.
Like if I'm playing like one of my favorite games is Wrestling Empire because it barely uses 25% of my GPU, then it would work fine. But like God of War, I would be a bit concerned about running both of those at the same time because I believe that it would just cause me a lot of heartache.
Right.
But
I think you're right. That is the issue. My only way of capturing is I have one of those Elgato cards.
mhm,
Um but I can only use that efficiently when it's docked. And I gotta have a computer hooked up. I have a separate computer hooked
right.
up. So and that's only at work. So uh yeah, yeah.
No, that makes sense. So, Mike, to finish us off here, we usually use the last bit of upcoming stuff, something that you've seen. Last week we did like release dates of what's coming the next week or whatever. But let's kind of change that format a little bit, and just upcoming stuff that you're excited for, in whatever format. Do you have anything off the top of your head? Or actually, I'll start off. Um, just so that you can think about it for a second. One of the big things I'm excited is that I saw the other day, and I didn't think I was going to see, is we have Jack Ryan season 3 coming to Amazon Prime. I'm very excited for this because I thought we were done at season 2. And the more and more that the allure of Marvel Studios or the MCU was to get Brian Krasinski to come over there, I was assuming that Jack Ryan was a foregone conclusion, just kind of like Henry Cavill with The Witcher. But we have a season 3 coming. I don't know if this will be the last season now or whatnot, but it's been a long time coming. I unfortunately, the one things I hate now about streaming television is that a season takes more than a year to come out these days, and on a particular schedule or whatnot. So I'm really excited for Jack Ryan. I'm making sure I don't accidentally say Jack Reacher because that is something else I am waiting for. Another thing that I'm waiting for is the Callisto Protocol, right? And this is a game made from the people who made Dead Space, but I don't believe they're no longer working with EA, so they're making it their way and how they want to. So I don't believe the Callisto Protocol comes out this year. I believe it comes out early next year. But those are two of the bigger things that I'm super excited for coming down the pipe. Mike, you got anything?
Yeah, it's funny. So I would have mentioned Jack Ryan. I'm definitely excited to see that one. Callisto Protocol actually it is slated to come out in December. Um, whether or not that still happens, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But it is still anticipated to come out in December, early December, actually. Uh, it's not coming out in Japan though. Um,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, and apparently this is a thing. This isn't anything new. This happened with Resident Evil in Japan too, where it was just too violent for them, and they censored. Resident Evil ended up being censored, or they worked with the developers to censor Resident Evil. Um, the Callisto Protocol, they did not want to work with Japan and their regulators to. Uh, censor the game. So that won't be coming out in Japan. I am kind of excited for that to come out. Uh, but again, my always concern with these types of games is I don't want to see something in there like I can handle gore and everything like that or whatnot. It's just the spiders. I can't handle spiders for some reason. Um, of course, God of War Ragnarok. Definitely looking for that one to come out. Um,
Does that come out this week or this coming week, or it
it
comes
comes
out very
out
soon?
next week. It's November 9th is when it's coming out. Um, actually, I want to say the day before that. Uh, I'll put it this way. I'm excited for God of War Ragnarok. I don't know if I'll pick it up just yet because I couldn't get it on the PS4, as I do not have a PS5 yet, and I don't expect it to be on a PC until next year. Um, but Sonic Frontiers also comes out that week, and that is available on Steam day one. And I've been looking at a lot of gameplay, and I know when initially it came out, people were kind of freaking out, like, "Oh, it doesn't look good." But ever since, people have been like, "Man, this actually looks pretty good." And I've been looking at it, and I'm like, "This looks really interesting." I haven't played a Sonic game since Sonic 2. Um, and I know that they've had a ton of games after that where it's gone 3D and everything like that. Uh, and I just was never really interested in that type of play with Sonic. But from what I've seen in the gameplay and in the trailers, makes me very curious to see this game come out. I don't expect it to be anything groundbreaking, but it does look like a lot of fun. Um, one more thing I would like to mention that's coming out or is in the process of coming out, and it's not so much that it's a game or anything. So for Steam, EA has a couple of third-party launchers. Okay, they've got EA Play and they've also got Origin, and both between both of those, especially with Origin, you have to have an internet connection in order to deal with its online DRM, in which case you can basically play the game. Um, which is a problem for me when I'm out and about. Like if I want to play Madden outside of my home and I'm at work, I had to establish a personal hotspot, just so that when the game launches and it launches the Origin platform, uh, I can put my password in and it goes to the game. EA is in the process of just merging Origin into EA Play, which should solve a lot of that issue and a lot of people's issue of just be able to play solo. You should be able to play these games solo and offline. Um, and then when you want to play online and play multiplayer, then you get that internet connection. But for me, who plays the majority of my games outside of my house, uh, you have these third party launchers like Origin that really make it hard for you to, and even time consuming just to get online, establish a personal hotspot, especially if you don't have the bars to do it, right?
Hmm.
Um, the reception. EA is slowly rolling that out over the last few weeks, and I'm hoping that really soon Madden will be a part of EA Play instead of Origin, because that is just an unnecessary and frustrating thing to happen. But yeah, that's what I got for as far as coming out soon, or wanting to come out soon. Sonic Frontiers, I think, is my main one.
Yeah, it'd be great to get another Sonic game that that takes you back. Mario's been killing it for all these years, and Sonic has kind of been left by the wayside. But the resurgence due to the movies make it super exciting to see what's coming on the game side. So I hope that Sonic game does well. Two last things I want to bring out: advertising is ramping up for Black Panther. I'm expecting gangbuster numbers that first week. And it looks like I just saw that the Rihanna single came out the other day for the soundtrack. So yeah, they already are putting that package into place. And just think about it, November 11th is almost here already. Like as we're recording, this is October 30th. So literally in 2 weeks, I'll be in the theater. I got to go see it. Black Adam is getting to the point where I'll probably see it at home, even though I did want to see it in theaters. It just didn't work out. Another thing that's coming, and this is the last thing I'll mention, to Disney Plus, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is coming. It'll be available November 25th, 2022. So, of course, and it's written and directed by James Gunn, which is going to be kind of interesting to see how this is going to work. But I don't know if this is animated, if this is live action or whatever, but
it's live action.
Okay, so I'm very curious to see this. I'm not looking for any cliffhangers or anything like that, but it'll be kind of dope to see what they do with this. It's probably like a little 30-minute, 1 hour type show. So that's
Yeah,
going to be kind
I
of
saw a
dope.
trailer and it looks fun. It's got Kevin Bacon playing Kevin Bacon in there.
Okay, all right.
And it looks like it looks like a holiday special that you would normally see when we were kids. And it looks like Star-Lord is kind of depressed. And I want to say it's geez, I can't remember anybody's names anymore, but he's got two of his crew who are trying to bring his holiday cheer up. And they're like, well, who does he idolize? And what is his whole thing? They're like, Kevin Bacon. And so they're trying to kidnap Kevin Bacon. And it looks like a fun little, I'm sure, like you said, it's only going to be like an hour or so, but it looks like a fun little featurette that I think a lot of people will enjoy.
That's what's up. So yeah, there's a lot coming out. There's some things to be excited about, and I know that holiday schedule has some more things that we'll talk about later. But until then, we will see you next week for episode 24 of the Nation80 podcast. But until then, keep your imagination up, and we'll see you next week.